Hello and welcome to this video in which we will sew the Voyage pattern together. This is a pattern for a travel bag in 3 sizes and a toiletry bag that are fully lined for a pretty finish. The bag and case are rectangular in shape with panels on each side of the piece. We thought about practicality with a maxi central zipped opening that extends to the sides. There are lined interior pockets with sewn dividers that can be compartmentalized with as many seams as desired. As for the specifics, let's talk about the case, which has a small handle caught in the side seam. In terms of specifics for the bag, we offer optional exterior pockets, which will be zipped or not. Here is, for example, a bag with the front pocket zipped and the pocket on the other side, which is simply open. On this other bag, we have 2 zipped pockets. Here are the 3 bag sizes. First, the size S bag, which is 30 by 21, and which can be used as a messenger bag or a handbag, or even a bag for children or for the nursery. The medium size is 40 by 30 centimeters. It allows you to carry an outfit for about a day, for example shoes, clothes and the toiletry bag. The size M bag can also be used for work, because its format allows you to carry documents or a laptop up to 15 inches. Finally, the large 50 by 40 travel bag allows you to take things for a weekend or serve as a shopping or sports bag. The L bag can have large, deep pockets on the outside, or the medium-size pockets, which are a little shallower. The bag in the different sizes has the choice of large handles to be worn on the shoulder or small handles to be held in the hand. It is possible as an option to add an adjustable shoulder strap with adjustment buckle accessories, but also carabiners to make the shoulder strap removable. The sewing level is intermediate. This is a very fun pattern to make, which teaches how to assemble a lining, pockets, a zipper, handles, and a shoulder strap. It's the perfect project when you have little time in front of you but want a successful project to use for everyday life or for travel. For outer fabrics, rather thick warp-and-weft fabrics with a weight of about 300–400 grams per square meter are recommended in the first place. Gabardine-type fabrics or bachette-type woven fabrics, otherwise corduroys, thick jeans or even dense woolen sheets, oilcloths, coated fabrics or even imitation leather or even real leather. You can also use thinner fabrics such as linen canvas, woven honeycomb or ribstop type, nylon with a grid effect like parachute or quay fabrics, for a soft bag look or for the toilet bag. It is also possible to use a quilted fabric like this, nylon or quilted poplin or quilted Miller's velvet like here. The fabric is already quilted or to be quilted yourself. You can also watch our video dedicated to quilting techniques, which is available on our site in free access. Finally, concerning the outer fabrics to be used for the bag or the travel case, it is possible to use sherpa or sheepskin style knit, but the appearance here again will be more flexible, and the slightly thick iron-on canvas reinforcement will be essential to avoid that the sherpa does not become deformed. Medium to small projects are then recommended. For the lining, you can use a poplin, a chambray, a linen or even a seersucker. The fabric should have a little hold. Viscose should therefore be avoided. We will systematically reinforce the outer fabric with a more or less thick interfacing, depending on the outer fabric and, above all, depending on the desired effect. For example, you can interfacing a 330 grams per square meter gabardine here with a classic woven interfacing, which strengthens but keeps a nice flexibility. Another option: use a non-woven or non-woven interlining, which is flexible before installation, but which, once applied with an iron, becomes more cardboard and gives the gabardine a more firm fall. Alternatively, you can use a fleece interlining such as this quality from Voyage here, the H630 or H640, for a light quilted effect. The rendering is still different. It gives a little volume and therefore hold and a nice hand to your bag, but keeps it flexible and comfortable. I would say that if you hesitate for your first try, opt for a quilted interlining such as Voyage H630 or H640, which will give an impeccable result. It should be noted that if your fabric is already quilted, there is no need to interfacing because the fabric already has a certain hold. For other supplies, you will first need a needle suitable for your project. If your fabric is a bit thick beyond 300 grams per square meter, I recommend needles of 90 or even or 100 or jeans needles if you use thick gabardines or denim fabrics, or even leather needles for thick faux leather or the leathers. Don't forget that you will also have an interfacing, a fleece and a lining. This is why I recommend using a thick needle. As an option, double needles can be used. Again, we adapt the size of the needle to the weight of the fabric used, meaning for example 90 needles for fabrics. The optional use of a double needle would then be dedicated to the seams of the handles, but you can also use a single needle and make 2 passes, which gives 2 parallel lines of seam. Whatever the needle used, we will lengthen the stitch to 3 for longer stitches throughout the project. You will also need a polyester thread for its strength, or, optionally, jeans or extra strong threads, which are thick and reinforced threads for even stronger seams. Extra resistant yarns are also used to reinforce the workwear effect with large stitches in a genre spirit. But honestly, classic polyester yarns do the job very well with back and forth reinforcement stitches in the areas most subject to stretching. You will also need a zip or zipper 40, 45, 55 or 75 centimeters long depending on the project and the size of the bag for the main opening, and as an option, 1 or 2 15 centimeters zips for the outside pockets of the bag. Whatever the size of the bag. The length of a zip corresponds to the length of the teeth, excluding the surplus of the braids at the ends. We recommend the use of non-separable zippers at the end, which have a longer braid at the ends, unlike separable zippers, which are recommended more for jackets. In terms of the quality of the zip teeth, we will take either metal teeth or nylon spiral zips like this. There are some with more or less large spirals. The 3mm are fine and are used more for kits and especially fine fabrics. The larger ones of 5mm in diameter will be more suitable for bag projects. For metal zips, the lengths are standard in the trade and correspond to the lengths required for travel. Regarding coil zips, they also exist in non-separable in the standard lengths required for the project. Otherwise, you can use zips by the meter to be cut. You have a chapter a little later that explains how to cut a zip by the meter to the right length. Finally, there are 2 possible options: a slider or 2 sliders to have a double opening on your bag or your kit. This option can be practical in use. In addition, you will need optional supplies for the handles and shoulder straps of the bags. The handles and shoulder straps are provided in the main fabric and are 40mm wide in the end. We could make them in commercially purchased webbing. We then recommend a width of 40mm, but 30mm could also do the trick. The straps are in cotton or polyester. They are plain or fancy with patterns or padded like this. The important thing is that they are thick enough and suitable for a bag project. We could finally use leather or imitation leather straps. I invite you to consult the table of needs according to the size of the bag and the hand or shoulder handles. This table is also available in your tutorial. Finally, If you make the optional adjustable shoulder strap for the bag, you will need 2 metal or plastic buckles to attach the shoulder strap as here in the form rectangular or half moon. You could also add 2 carabiners to create a removable shoulder strap. Finally, the shoulder strap being adjustable, it requires a metal or plastic sliding buckle. We made different versions of each model that I will present to you now. A size L bag in faded denim weighing 330 grams per square meter covered with a woven vlies line. It has a large pocket, handles on the shoulder, a metal zip, a striped chambray lining. I got it ready to leave tonight. And it's only half full. A size M bag in printed linen covered with quilted vlies line, and quilted by me. It has an exterior zipped pocket, another unzipped back pocket, an adjustable and removable shoulder strap, long handles to also be worn on the shoulder, a large 2-way metal zip, a plain ecru poplin lining. Again, it's not full. Another size M bag with again, large handles. It is in match gabardine by Atelier Brunette with metal zips. It is lined with coordinated gingham. This is the bag that will often accompany me on my travels. A small bag in raw denim with long handles with simple woven interlining and double gingham gauze from Atelier Brunette. I put navy metal zips. It's a very flexible bag that's super practical to store in my closets. I use it for small extra errands. Here is now an adorable small size bag in cotton sherpa, an adjustable shoulder strap in thick ecru cotton strap, and small short handles to be carried by hand that I made in polyester straps for more flexibility, because the in cotton were a little thick for my taste. I decorated one side without a pocket with a fancy sticker, and on the other side, I have a zipped pocket with a spiral nylon zip. On the main opening, I also put a spiral zip by the meter that I adjusted in length, and I put 2 sliders there. The lining is in sand gingham. Here it is, and it's ready for the day. I finally made 3 toiletry bags. A toiletry bag in quilted match gabardine with a gingham lining and a denim-colored zip, one in brown workshop tangerine gabardine simply covered with silver imitation leather bottom and coral and white seersucker lining. The last one is in Milleret's velvet of brunette workshop that I covered with a quilted interlining and lined with a flowered satin. I use it as a large makeup bag. I used a thin metal zip and added a small decorative sticker. Before you start sewing, I show you how to use spiral zips by the meter. It's a simple and above all practical option because you can always have a meter of zip per meter available that you can use as you wish. Spiral zips are also sold by the meter. It will be necessary to cut the required length plus 5 centimeters. For example, for a central opening zip of the size M bag, you need a 55 centimeters zip. You will cut a total length of 60 centimeters, 55 plus 5. Honestly, the spiral chain is very easy to cut with classic scissors. We will then open the spirals a few centimeters to be able to put on the sliders. Cursors look like this. You have a rounded side with 2 openings, and the opposite side is flat with an opening to close the spirals. We will put one of the spirals barely and without forcing it into one of the openings on the rounded side. Then we hold it in place while introducing the other side of the spiral in the other opening in the same way. We will then push the flat part of the slider a little to further engage the spirals in the slider. Then hold in place by holding the ends of the braids with one hand. You can repeat at the other end of the zip with a second slider to make a double opening zip. We repeat the threading operation delicately, without forcing. The easiest way is to flatten the 2 ends on the table with 2 fingers and pulling the slider with the other hand to slide the slider completely. Once the sliders are installed, we will mark the desired zip length. In our example, 55 centimeters on a zip that has been cut to 60 centimeters. We distribute the surplus on each side. So here we have 2.5 centimeters on each side. We will then make a stop stitch by going very slowly with back and forth stitches to prevent the sliders from coming out, and this at the two ends of the 55 centimeters. Using precision scissors or a seam ripper, unstitch the two straight seams on the back of the braid. These seams are used to hold the spirals on the braid. It's really easy and quick to do, and it allows to have neat ends without spiral chain, which will be easier to assemble later in the bag or the kit. Repeat on both sides. We will thus release the chain in a spiral, and we will cut it flush with the stopping points. Here you have reconstituted a spiral zip to the desired length, which is ready to be assembled. Here are the versions that we are going to put together during this video. The size M bag in quilted printed linen lined with ecru poplin, with long handles and a shoulder strap. The pencil case in printed Milleraise velvet lined with Swiss dots, and the size S bag in sherpa with handles and a webbing shoulder strap. Whatever the version chosen, we will need two pieces in front and back in the outer fabric, in the lining and in the interlining that I have chosen padded here. We will also need two pieces for the top of the bag, also in fabric, lining and interfacing, and a zip of the length indicated in the table of supply needs. In my case, it is a 55 centimeters zip for a back size M. Then you need one fabric background, lining and interfacing. For the bag only, you can add two pieces of outer fabric pockets and lining, and if you choose to make them with a zip, you will need one more piece for the top of the outer fabric pockets. I chose to make an unzipped pocket and a zipped pocket, so I need a 15 centimeters zip. Finally, for all the versions, bag or case, you need two inside pockets in fabric and lining, no need for interfacing here. You will need another two pieces of fabric to form the handles of the bag, and optionally the shoulder strap and the fixing tabs for this shoulder strap. Finally, to attach this shoulder strap and make it adjustable, I need two attachment buckles, which I took 38 to 40 millimeters wide for a fabric shoulder strap, which will be 40 millimeters wide, and a sliding buckle for the part adjustable, also of the same width. For the kit, we also have the two front and back pieces, the two tops, the bottom in the outer fabric, in the lining and the interlining, the two interior pockets in fabric and lining, and the piece for the small side handle in the fabric, as well as a 40 centimeter long zip closure. I had forgotten to show you the optional part end-degree 2bis to put at the end of the main opening zip for a nice finish. It's a small rectangle of 5 by 4 centimeters to cover the bottom of the zip and make pretty finishes. We could also put one at the other end of the zip, especially if you have zips with two sliders. We then move on to the hot interfacing of the front, back, bottom and top pieces of the bag. For the woven cotton interlining, no problem, we put the glued part on the back of the fabric piece and pass the hot iron to hot glue. Avoid moving your iron around as much as I do. You can put the iron down, wait a few seconds and move it back to another area. It's actually more effective. For non-woven interlinings, it's the same. We proceed in the same way. On the other hand, for the quilted interfacing, the quilting is made of polyester, so the glued part will also have been placed on the back of the fabric, but it is the fabric itself which will be in contact with the iron if it is cotton. So we return the work before passing the iron. Otherwise, place a fine cotton cloth between the iron and the fleece. Here it is covered. As an option, you can, as I have done here, quilting quilted pieces. For my part, I also quilted the quilted pieces by drawing textile style lines every 3 centimeters vertically and then top stitching along each line. I was careful to start my line tracing in the middle of the front, top and bottom pieces so that my lines matched the assembly. You can find on our site a very complete video on all the quilting techniques if you want to know more. For my part, I continue the quilting of the pieces, and then I will meet you. Finally, as an option, you can overcast all the pieces, which can be done with an overlock on the overlocker, or a zigzag stitch on the sewing machine. Personally, I like to overcast because my pieces do not fray during the work. It's quite long to do, and it's not essential because all the seams will be enclosed, but hey, it's still practical. Personally, I did it here on part of the pieces, and not at all on the lining pieces which did not fray. We start with the inside pockets on the front and back in lining. We are going to place right sides together, an inside pocket piece in lining, and one in main fabric. Align the high edges, pin and stitch at 1 centimeter. Here it is stung. We are going to lay the seam allowances under the lining, and we are going to iron, then we will make an understitch, which I show you here because I have already done it on my side. This involves stitching the lining and seam allowance together at 2 millimeters to help hold the lining in place. Thus it will not be seen at the edge of the seam. We finish by ironing carefully, before laying the inside pocket on the lining. We will first mark the middle of the inside pocket to be able to draw a line with a textile chalk, and later be able to locate the stitch line of the pocket separation if we want to compartmentalize the pocket. We are now going to place the inside pocket on the right side of the front lining piece by aligning the side and bottom edges of the pieces like this. We are going to pin the sides and the bottom, then we will sew these edges in the seam allowances. We start on one side, then we go down. We leave the needle planted in the fabric at the angle. We raise the foot to rotate the work in angle. Then we lower the foot and we progress along the low selvage. We turn again at the corner, and we go up along the side to finish with stopping points in round trips. We stitched the pocket. We will now compartmentalize this pocket in two in the middle by top stitching along the drawn line. We start the stitching at the bottom of the pocket, then we go up and we mark a few points back and forth at the top of the inside pocket. Obviously, we could not compartmentalize the pocket or even compartmentalize it in three, for example by making 2 lines of stitching by distributing the compartments as desired. Now that the inside pocket is in place, we will repeat on the other inside pocket with the other opposite lining piece, which I have already done on my side. I also show you the result of the interior pockets for the kit version. We will take care of the external pockets, which are proposed for the bags, but not for the kit. We are going to sew for this video a pocket closed by a zip on one side, and an open pocket with a simple stitching on the other side. But of course, on your side, you could make 2 open pockets or 2 zipped pockets of your choice. For the size L bag, the pockets provided on the outside are quite deep, and if you wish, you can take the pattern for the size M outside pocket, which fits very well because they are the same width, but it will be shallower. Here I will mount my outer non-zipped pocket first. I will align on the right sides the outer fabric pocket and the lining pocket. I pin and stitch the top at 1 centimeter. I then laid the seam allowances under the lining, under quilting at 2 mm as we had done previously for the inside pockets. I'm going to iron the top again, and optionally I top stitch the top of the pocket through the layers at about 2 centimeters. And that is done. I'm just going to mark the middle of my pocket top and bottom. I will also mark a chalk line on the middle of the right side of my front or back piece in outer fabric. We are talking about piece 1. This will allow me to align the pocket on the front of the bag, and I also align the pocket at the bottom of the front. Once properly placed, the pocket should be pinned. We check with a rule that we has the same distance on both sides of the pocket and readjusts if necessary. Then we will stitch in the seam allowance through the layers to hold the pocket in place on the sides and bottom. This is the result. We will now put a pocket with a zipper. I first mark with chalk the middles of the outer pocket in main fabric, the middle of my 15 centimeters long zip, and I also mark at the middle of my piece in front or back of the bag in main fabric, and finally, the middle of the upper piece for the zipped pocket. I also mark the top piece of the zipped pocket, this small piece, by ironing a 1 centimeter indent on one length. I will now place the right side selvage of the zip along the main fabric pocket piece, on the right side wedging the middles and pinning along. We will then align the right side of the top of the lining pocket along the back braid of the zip, which is therefore sandwiched between the main fabric and the lining. We pin all the way. We are going to open the zip a little by pulling on the slider to easily release the work. Then we are going to put on a special zipper presser foot, which is specific to each brand of machine. We are going to shift the needle a little to be quite close to the fabric. The needle should be about 5 mm from the teeth of the zip, and we will stitch through the layers. We start with a stopping point in round trip, then we advance gradually and slowly. When approaching the slider of the zip, we will plant the needle in the fabric, lift the presser foot and move the slider delicately to pass it on the other side of the foot. You can be embarrassed like me here with the pins, which I then remove. Then we lower the foot and we can continue to sting until the end. We end up with a few points back and forth. We will fold the fabric and the lining wrong sides together and iron them both carefully along the zipper with your fingers, or, better, with an iron. Then we will top stitch together 6-7 mm from the teeth of the zipper, still with the special zipper presser foot. We will then align the place of the opposite braid to the place of the upper piece along the unfolded selvage, wedging the middles first. We pin and we will stitch 5 mm from the teeth of the zip. Here we prick after opening the zip to start. Then we will iron and keep for later. We are now going to put the zipped pocket by aligning the pocket on the place of the back or front piece which has been marked in the middle. The pocket is placed on the lower selvage, wedging the middles. We will pin the edges of the pocket and the top of the pocket, and we will stitch all around. We will also have taken care to open the zip slightly to be able to position the zip braids edge to edge. Once the stitching around has been done, we will now top stitch along the zip through the layers to hold the top in place. We will have used the special zipper presser foot. Here our outside pockets are placed with the pretty lining. We will mark the middle of the top pieces and the top of the front and back pieces. We will align on the right sides a piece above at the top of a piece in front by making the middles coincide. We pin. The top piece is longer and will stick out on either side. We will stitch along at 1 centimeter. Open the seam allowances with an iron. Here, we stitched. We repeated with the other piece on top to be aligned at the top of the back piece of the bag, wedging the middles. We pinned and stitched at 1 centimeter, and we opened the seam allowances with an iron. We repeated the operation with the lining pieces on top and front, top and back. There, we also have the iron seams. Here is the result also for the kit. The method is identical for all products. We are going to put the handles for 2 models, the case or the bag, and here is what it gives at the end. Here for the pencil case. There is a small handle taken from the side there. For the bag, it is possible to make the handles in the shoulder handle version or in the hand handle version. The 2 lengths are proposed on par 10°6. The assembly is identical for the 2 lengths of handles. It is also possible to make the handles in the main fabric or in a strap. For the bag version, here is a version with the handles in the main fabric in the shoulder handle version, and a version with the strap handles in the hand handle version. Now let's see how to proceed to achieve this result. Let's start by preparing the handles in the main fabric. We will take a piece of handle fabric, piece 10°6 from the bag or 4' from the kit, and fold in 2 lengthwise and wrong sides together, then iron to mark the middle, then open the handle, and fold one of the 2 edges towards the center wrong sides together. Then the other so that they come together, and we will go back all along these re-entries. Then we will fold the strip again in 2, and iron it. We therefore have a long handle of 4 layers of fabric in the end. We will pin the unsewn part or use pliers, then we will stitch all along. We will repeat on the other handle what I have already done on my side on these long fabric bag handles. So I have 2 handles ready. If you have chosen commercial webbing handles for the bag only, you will cut the length necessary for 2 handles. I remind you here of the necessary lengths according to your project, and the type of handles in the hand or on the shoulder. For my part, I will make an S bag with short handles to be held by hand. I choose a flexible polyester braid 4 centimeters wide. If your strap is made of thick cotton or not very flexible, take 3 centimeters wide instead. So I'm going to cut 2 handles of 75 centimeters each for an S bag. For main fabric or webbing handles, we will now put a first handle on the front or back of the bag. I show you here with the fabric strap, but it would be the same with the webbing handle. You have marks on pattern piece and degree 1 to position the handle, but otherwise it is simply done by covering the seam allowance of the pocket on either side, and starting the pose at the bottom of the bag, going up well vertically along the pocket, while covering its seam allowance on centimeter so. We pin to the top of the front or back piece. We check in passing that the distance between the edge of the handle and the edge of the bag is identical on both sides, and we adjust if necessary. But the important thing is to properly cover the seam allowances on the side of the pocket, even if you have a very small shift in distance between left and right. Then we will check that we do not twist the handle, and we will start again on the other side of the pocket, starting with the other end of the handle at the bottom of the front or back, and going up along the pocket and covering the seam allowance of this pocket. We finish pinning. We stop there again at the top of the front or back, taking the seam allowance between the front or back and the top in the pinning. We will then sew 2 lines of stitching on each side of each handle to reinforce the seam. I will show you. The stitch is lengthened to reach a length of approximately 3 on the machine setting. The sting is not difficult to make, but there may be a little thickness, so we gently Y-V. We are going to make a stop point at the top of the front or the back, and we are going to stitch about 3 millimeters from the edge. Do not stitch into the top piece. For the first stitch, I go back on the line made previously all along, then arrived at the bottom, I will leave the needle planted in the fabric. I will raise the presser foot and turn my work to continue in the seam allowance after have lowered the foot. Then I start again to go up the stitch along the opposite edge, always 3 mm from the edge of the handle. Arrived at the top, I turn, I progress, and I will shift my needle slightly to 3 mm from the line of points previously made. I will thus make a second line parallel to the other. Just follow a mark such as the inside edge of my presser foot here. So I'm going to do a full turn again, then I sting parallel to the piece above, and I'm going to end up with a stop point at the level of the starting point of my long sting. I can also make this stitch with a double needle directly. I show you here the other part of the cove. We thread 2 threads of 2 coils each in a needle eye, and we bite with the same stitch length and straight stitch settings. 2 lines of stitching are formed as the stitching progresses. For the angle, we cannot leave the 2 needles planted in the fabric. Suddenly we raise the needles and the presser foot. We gently turn the work, and we lower the foot and needle to continue the stitching at a right angle. We are now going to mark 5 centimeters from the top of the stitching. We mark 2 diagonals which intersect in this way, and we are going to make a kind of rectangle and 2 additional diagonal reinforcements. I'm going to redo a stopping point, then a diagonal passage like this. I aim for the opposite point, mark it at 5 centimeters. I prick, I turn, I pass horizontally. At the angle I turn to mark the transverse diagonal, and I finish at the top with a last return to the horizontal to join my point of origin, and I finish with a stopping point. Your seam is thus super strong. We will obviously repeat on the other side on the other end of the cove. I will then proceed exactly the same way for the other front or back with the other handle. As an option, you can also make additional parallel stitching along the free handles as I show you here. For the kit, we have already prepared the handle. I remind you how we do it on another 4x8 piece that we fold back on itself for the first time. Then folding the 2 selvages again towards the center, iron everything and stitch flush. Here is the result. Now we are going to put the handle on one of the ends of the bottom strip, 3 to 2.5 centimeters from the side edge. The handle is planned long enough to pass the hand, but of course you can also, as I show it here, shorten it by going beyond the seam allowances of the edges of the bottom. This will shorten your cove. Then we will sew the ends at the seam allowances of the bottom piece. I leave on hold. If, like me, you have chosen the adjustable shoulder strap option, now is the time to attach the side fasteners with the fastening buckles. We are going to fold the long edges right sides together towards the center, so that they meet, and we are going to iron all along these tucked-in edges. We will stitch the ends over 1 centimeter, with stop stitches at the beginning and at the end. This is what is done here on the other attachment. We thin out the angles. And we return to the visible place, we iron again, and we will stitch these ray entrants in the center with 2 parallel lines of stitching as I did here on the second fastener. Otherwise, you can simply hold them with dots of textile glue on the back of the seams if you don't want to see the top stitching. We will position the end of the tie in the center of the cross, the mark which is on the bottom part, end degree 3 of the pattern. If, like me, you have not marked the mark, do not panic. You must mark a marker simply like this. We mark the middle of the bottom strip at the ends. We draw a line and a marker 8 centimeters from the end of each side of the bottom strip. We therefore align the end of the fastener centered on this mark, place against place. Pin and stitch along and 2.5 centimeters lower horizontally. It's done on the other side. We pass a 4 centimeters wide fastening loop that I have chosen in half moon because I will then put carabiners on the shoulder strap. Then we will fold the fastener upside down and form a loop in this way to come with the free end, join the other attached end. Move the loop towards the end of the bag bottom piece and carefully pin the edge. Then we will stitch all around, stopping at 2.5 centimeters. We make 2 parallel lines with stop stitches back and forth at the beginning and at the end of the seam, then the stitches diagonally as explained above for the handles. The loop is therefore caught in the end of the fastener. We will repeat on the other end of the bottom strip as I have already done on my side. We keep waiting because the laying of the shoulder strap is done at the end of the work. Here is also what it gives in the end on the other version with buckles which are rectangular because the shoulder strap will be fixed here. To install the central opening zip, we first mark a retracted iron on the length of the small piece 2x. It's a small rectangle that will be used to cover the end of the zip, as seen here on an already finished orange version. We could also make this finish at the 2 ends of the zip as in this other example here on the orange kit. Now we are going to take a non-separable zip of 40, 45, 55 or 75 centimeters respectively for the kit, the S bag, the M bag or the L bag. Here it is an M bag, so I have a double zip of 55 centimeters. Mark the middle. We will place on the right sides a braid of the zip along the top piece end degree 2, by centering the middle of the zip, middle of the length of the chain of teeth or spiral, in the middle of piece 2. We pin all along. You will see, the teeth of the zip stop about 1.5 centimeters from each end of the piece above, so as not to be bothered by the slider, and the zip stop rings when assembling the ends to the rest of the bag or kit. At the end of the zip, I will insert piece 2 bis like this, on the right sides of the top piece and between the top piece and the zip braid. This small piece should cover the bottom of the zipper teeth and the bottom of the braid. You can also put it more or less high at the end of the zip, depending on whether you want to cover the end of the zip more or less. It exceeds, but it does not matter because it will be cut flush afterwards. We will pin together. It is possible, as an option, to also insert another part 2 bis at the top of the zip, i.e. on the other side of the zip, to cover the top of the teeth of the zip in the same way. What I'm going to do here, I show you. We will then place the right side of the lining of top piece end degree 2 along the wrong side of this same zip braid, align the edges and replace the pins through the layers. The zip braid is therefore sandwiched between the outer fabric and the lining. Stitch through the layers 5 mm from the zip teeth, using a special zip fastening presser foot. When you get to the level of the zip slider, leave the needle planted in the work, raise the presser foot, pass the slider behind the presser foot, lower the presser foot and continue the stitch, end with a break point. That's it. We're going to fold the fabric and the lining wrong sides together, iron and top stitch flush. There you go. It's stung. We will start again with the other part of the zip to be assembled between the fabric top pieces and the lining piece on the other side of the bag/case. After having already aligned the zip with the outer fabric, we will fold on the right sides the lining and align the edge of the piece above the zip, which is sandwiched, Stitch 5 mm from the teeth of the zip through the layers. We have stitched. We are now going to fold the fabric and its lining wrong sides together. Iron. We will top stitch at 2 mm to hold the fabrics in place and prevent them from getting caught in the zipper during use. Finally, we will cut the excess fabric of the parts 2 bies. For the bag or the kit, we will now put the bottom of the bag in main fabric, then in lining. We start with the outer fabric back. We mark the middles of the bottom band end degree 3. We will align the middles of this band and the front of the bag. On the right sides, we pin. We will stitch at 1 cm. Then we repeat with the other back piece this time. Line up in the middle, pin and stitch. There you go. It's done. I show you the result on the M bag and the kit. You can open the seams with an optional iron. Above all, it is now necessary to notch the seam allowance of the bottom at each angle made with the front and back of the bag or the case. It is important for the moment when we will close the sides. We will repeat the operation with the lining. We align the middles of the bottom lining with the front and back of the lining. We pin, and we will stitch on one side all the way, and on the other, we will leave a large opening to turn the bag over at the end place. This opening must be quite wide, almost the width of the bag or case, but you must still leave a distance of 3 to 5 centimeters of stitching on each side with, and this is important, reinforcement stitches going and going. Returns. We will need it when we turn over all the work at the end. I show you the prepared liners and assembled for the bag with the opening left here and the case with the opening left here. We will put the work on the visible back and separate the outer fabric from the lining. Then we will align on the right sides the sides of the bottom band with the top bands, zip closed. First align the right sides the outer fabric parts, then the lining selvages together, then the 4 layers together. We will pin and stitch at 1 centimeter all the way. It will obviously remain to be repeated on the opposite side. We are now going to tackle the sides of the book, which I show you here on the kit, but which is done the same way on the bag. I show it later in the video, but before we will start by sliding his hand and partially open the zip. We will now close the openings left in the corners. We will have to deform our work to close the corners one by one. We start with a first angle. We are going to align the right sides of the 2 outer fabric selvages together on the diagonal. The seams help you to place and stretch the work to put the selvages flat. You see, I put my fingers at the level of the existing seams to flatten the opening. We maintain with clamps or pins. Then we repeat with the right sides linings that we also align with the edges of the outer fabric. This is where the notches made previously in the seam allowances at the corners will help you to better place the edges. We will replace the clips or pins through the 4 layers. It will later be necessary to stitch at 1 centimeter, starting and ending with stitches back and forth. For my part, I prefer to continue pinning on the other sides, repeating in this way on the 3 other angles by deforming the work little by little to make the manipulation easier. Is a bit tricky, but you have to take your time. Come on, I'll continue on my side, and I'll meet you in a few minutes. Here it is sewn at the 4 corners. I will return the work on the visible place by passing the hole through the opening left in the bottom of the lining. We will first bring out the place of the lining, then position the lining well in the outer fabric bag, through the zipped opening, also open. Mark the angles and corners well with a finger or with the help of an awl or a bamboo tip. If you are not satisfied with the result on an angle, it is obviously possible to go back and redo an angle by turning over, unsewing the angle and replacing the edges of the angles. I'll show you how the corners and sides are closed on the bag version, but it's done the same way. I start by assembling the sides of the bottoms with the sides of the top pieces. I align right sides the selvages in the outer fabric, then in the lining. I pin and I renew on the other side. Finally, I will stitch. I continue on the bag with the angles. As I told you, we will simply renew the steps seen previously for the kit. We partially opened the zip. We are going to take care of each angle separately and align the edges of the outer fabric, then the lining. We pin the 4 layers together, and we continue on the following angles in the same way. I continue on my side. And finally, we will return the bag through the opening left in the lining, then through the zip left open as well. We will close the bottom of the liner. We pin the seams of the bottom of the lining left open, and we will top stitch at 2 millimeters to finish closing the lining. Here I show you the finished case with the bottom closed. We see a small bite, but the work is super neat. For the shoulder strap option of the bag, you can choose to make it in cotton or polyester strap. This one in cotton is thicker and less flexible than the one in polyester. Adapt the choice of the quality of the strap to your desire. If we have chosen to make the shoulder strap in the main fabric as here, we will form the shoulder strap with piece 7 of the pattern, as we formed the handles by folding it in 2 lengthwise and wrong sides together, then iron to mark the middle. We opened the strip and folded the 2 edges towards the center R/R, so that they meet, and we ironed again throughout these returns. We get a long shoulder strap with 4 layers of fabric in the end. Pin the unsewn part or use darts, then stitch all the way 2 mm from the edge. We're going to put on the sliding buckle. Here I show you with my non-removable strap version. I have a 38 mm rectangular buckle for a 40 mm wide strap. That's all good. I will show you later with a removable shoulder strap version. We pass one end of the strap through the loop, and we will fold under the loop 3 to 4 centimeters, then stitch to hold in place about 3 to 4 centimeters by stitches back and forth. We will pass the other end through one of the bag's attachment loops, as I show you here from the inside, to come out of the bag. We iron the shoulder strap in the sliding buckle from below first, then we pass over the sliding bar, and finally we come out from below again. It remains to finally pass the shoulder strap to the opposite fastener, this time through the outside of the loop towards the bag. All that remains is to fold the end of the strap over 5 to 6 centimeters and fix it under the strap or shoulder strap a few centimeters away with reinforced points back and forth. We will also make reinforcement stitches in a cross, as I show you here. Here is the cotton webbing shoulder strap is ready. Little tip now about the handle. I want to talk about the handles to hold in the hand that I made here in soft polyester webbing. I therefore recommend folding the strap in half in the middle for a better grip and top stitching about 5 centimeters to form an ergonomic handle. Obviously, we will repeat on the other cove. Regarding the fixing of a removable shoulder strap, we start as for the non-removable shoulder strap with the threading of the adjustment buckle. We pass one end of the shoulder strap through the loop, and we will fold under the loop at 3 to 4 centimeters. Here I am making an additional tuck-in to hide the edges well at the end, but depending on the thickness of your fabric, this will not necessarily be possible. In any case, we will prick to hold in place at about 23-4 centimeters by stitches back and forth. Here is the result. I also reinforced here optionally with cross stitches. We will thread the carabiner through the other end of the shoulder strap, then go back through the adjustment loop, take out the end of the shoulder strap, and then put the band again in the second carabiner to finish by retracting the end on about 5 centimeters that we will flatten with a few stitches back and forth and a reinforcement seam in a cross. Here it is stung. Your removable shoulder strap is ready to be clipped onto the bag clips. There you go, your travel bags and cases are finished. It's a bit of work, but the result is worth it, because the finishes are impeccable. You can personalize them with woven badges or labels. I had fun with my creations here, on the Millerais velvet case, on the Sherpa satchel, or I could also decorate this size M bag with a little shine, or even this denim version, or this case. We hope that you too will be happy with your achievement. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. We can't wait to discover your versions, so go on Instagram with #IkatiVoyage. See you soon at Ikati.